What happens when loyalty collides with temptation? Dramatic pause. He thought he was just helping his best friend. But one night, a closed door, a waiting figure, and a secret gaze changed everything. This isn't just another BL webtoon. It's a yaoi manhwa romance about betrayal, forbidden attraction, and the line between right and wrong. Would you risk your oldest friendship for the love of someone you were never supposed to touch? Ji-won and Min-ho had been inseparable since childhood. Their lives were woven together by years of shared laughter, late-night study sessions, and secrets only best friends could carry. Ji-won was steady, the dependable one, always ready to catch Min-ho whenever his reckless nature tipped him over the edge. Min-ho was fire, loud, impulsive, messy, the kind of boy who lived without thinking about tomorrow. From the very beginning, they fit together like mismatched puzzle pieces that somehow formed a perfect picture. Their first meeting had been anything but graceful. Ji-won, 6 years old, quiet and bookish, had been sitting under the old cherry blossom tree near the schoolyard, carefully tracing letters into his notebook. Min-ho, also 6, had been running so fast during a game of tag that he tripped, skidded, and landed face first right into Ji-won's lap. Ji-won had blinked down at the boy sprawled across him, dirt smeared across his cheeks, and sighed. "You should be more careful," Ji-won said, dusting off Min-ho's uniform sleeve with a seriousness far too old for his age. Min-ho had just grinned, unbothered by scraped knees. "Then you can be careful for me." From that moment on, they were inseparable. Their days became a blur of shared adventures, climbing rooftops they weren't supposed to, sneaking snacks from Min-ho's mother's kitchen, and late-night whispered conversations over walkie-talkies when they were supposed to be asleep. Where Ji-won was calm and precise, Min-ho was chaos incarnate. Ji-won would carefully line up his pencils before starting homework. Min-ho would lose 3 pens before the first page was done. Ji-won excelled quietly in class, never seeking praise. Min-ho scraped by, always distracted, always looking for something bigger, louder, more exciting than textbooks could offer. But it didn't matter. Ji-won never minded slowing down to help Min-ho catch up. And Min-ho never minded dragging Ji-won into trouble just to see him roll his eyes in exasperation. Their parents often shook their heads at the unlikely pair, but deep down, everyone knew if you saw one, the other wasn't far behind. As they grew older, the differences between them became sharper. Ji-won's quiet steadiness blossomed into maturity. He was the kind of student teachers adored, the kind who always had his assignments done and rarely raised his voice. Min-ho, on the other hand, leaned into his reputation as the troublemaker. He skipped classes, stayed out too late, and got into fights when he felt cornered. And yet, Ji-won was always there. There was one night during their second year of high school when Min-ho stumbled into Ji-won's room with a split lip and bruised knuckles. Ji-won didn't ask questions right away. He just fetched the first aid kit and quietly cleaned the wounds. His hands were steady, his eyes soft even when his words carried quiet reproach. "You're going to destroy yourself if you keep this up," Ji-won murmured. Min-ho, sitting cross-legged on the floor with his usual defiance dimmed, muttered, "You'll be here to fix me, won't you?" It was half a joke, half a plea, and Ji-won, though he should have scolded him harder, only nodded once, always. It was in moments like that, the silence between words, the promises unspoken, that something deeper began to stir between them. Neither of them dared to name it. Ji-won, practical to his core, refused to think beyond the safety of their friendship. Min-ho, reckless though he was, sensed that crossing that invisible line might mean losing the only person who truly understood him. Still, there were signs. Ji-won noticed how his chest tightened whenever Minho laughed with someone else a little too freely. Minho realized he hated seeing Ji-won walk home with other classmates, even if they were only study partners. There were glances that lingered too long, hands that brushed accidentally but didn't pull away fast enough. Nights when conversation stretched until dawn, and the silence between them was filled with unsaid words. When university entrance exams loomed, Ji-won and Minho faced their first real fork in the road. Ji-won's academic excellence meant he had his pick of prestigious schools. Minho, with grades that barely scraped passing, had no such luxury. For weeks, the tension between them grew. "You don't have to stay back because of me," Minho snapped one evening when Ji-won skipped a university tour to help him study. "Go to your fancy college. I'll figure it out." Ji-won closed the textbook slowly, his expression calm but firm. "And leave you behind." "Do you think I could do that?" Minho's throat tightened, though he masked it with a scoff. "You're too good for me, Ji-won. You've always been." But Ji-won only shook his head, quiet conviction in his voice. "You're the reason I keep going. Don't ever think you're less that night." Minho lay awake long after Ji-won fell asleep beside him, staring at the ceiling, his chest aching with something he couldn't name. Their bond, forged through years of fire and calm, was unshakable. But adulthood has a way of testing even the strongest ties. For Ji-won, the future stretched like a straight path lined with expectations. Career, success, responsibility. For Minho, the future was a foggy horizon, filled with uncertainty and impulsive choices. They didn't know it yet, but the next chapter of their lives would bring challenges that neither textbooks nor bravado could prepare them for. Because sometimes love, the kind that hides in the spaces between friendship, has a way of changing everything. It was a bond built on trust. A bond Ji-won thought nothing could break. Until that night. The call came late, as it often did. Minho's voice rushed, half serious, half playful. "Ji-won, come over. I need help. Just come." No questions. Ji-won sighed but pulled on his jacket anyway. That was the thing about Minho, he asked. Ji-won came. It had always been that way. But when he arrived, Minho wasn't there. Instead, the door swung open to reveal someone Ji-won hadn't seen in years. Min-seok, Minho's older brother. If Minho was fire, Min-seok was ice, cool, distant, sharp-eyed. He'd left home early, chasing work, chasing something greater. To Ji-won, he'd always felt untouchable, more rumor than reality. But now here he was, framed in the hallway light, shoulders broad, gaze steady. "Minho's not home," Min-seok said, voice flat. "What are you doing here this late?" Ji-won faltered. He should have left, but the air between them felt charged, heavier than simple coincidence. For a second, Ji-won thought he saw something flicker in Min-seok's eyes, curiosity, maybe even recognition. And in that moment, Ji-won realized this night was not going to be simple. On-screen keywords, BL webtoon, yaoi manhwa, forbidden romance, gay love story. At first, it was awkward. Ji-won lingered in the living room, waiting for Minho to appear. But the house stayed quiet, save for the sound of rain against the windows. "Minho asked me to come," Ji-won explained softly. Min-seok raised an eyebrow. Of course he did. He never thinks before dragging people into his mess. Ji-won bristled, protective as always. "He's not a mess. He just needs people. And you," Min-seok said dryly, "always come running." The words cut sharper than they should have. Ji-won looked away, suddenly aware of how closely Min-seok was watching him. That night ended without answers. Min-ho never showed. Ji-won went home unsettled, Min-seok's gaze following him even after the door closed. But it wasn't the last time. Min-ho's vague requests became doorways to Min-seok instead. A broken shelf, boxes that needed moving, a leaking pipe. Ji-won came for his friend, but stayed because Min-seok was there. And Min-seok, for all his coldness, began to soften. A hand brushing Ji-won's as they lifted a box. A pause too long in the kitchen light. A silence that stretched, heavy with words neither dared to speak. One night, Min-seok lingered in the doorway as Ji-won prepared to leave. His voice was quieter than usual. "You know, you don't have to do everything Min-ho asks." Ji-won froze. "What do you mean?" "I mean," Min-seok's gaze pinned him, "sometimes you deserve to do things for yourself." The implication lingered, thick and unspoken. Ji-won's heart stuttered. He forced himself to smile, to deflect, but inside, something cracked open. Days turned into weeks. Ji-won found himself restless around Min-ho, guilt simmering under his skin. Every laugh they shared felt like a betrayal. Every secret glance at Min-seok felt like a sin. The breaking point came one evening when Min-ho's plans left Ji-won stranded again in the house with his brother. The tension was unbearable. Min-seok leaned closer as Ji-won tried to leave, his voice low. "Tell me honestly," Min-seok whispered. "Do you stay because of him or because of me?" Ji-won's breath caught. His throat tightened. There was no answer that didn't break something. And in that silence, Ji-won realized the truth. He had crossed a line the moment he let Min-seok's eyes linger too long. On-screen text: Forbidden BL romance, yaoi webtoon story, LGBTQ love. The storm outside mirrored the one inside Ji-won's chest. Rain hammered the windows as Min-seok stepped closer, closing the space between them. "You don't have to say it," Min-seok murmured. His hand brushed Ji-won's arm, slow, deliberate. "I already know." Ji-won trembled. "We can't. Min-ho, he's my best friend." "I know," Min-seok said, voice breaking. "But tell me you don't feel it. Tell me, and I'll stop." Ji-won opened his mouth, but no words came, because the truth burned too hot, too undeniable. His silence was the answer. Min-seok leaned in. The kiss was sudden, desperate, a dam breaking after too long. Ji-won stiffened, torn between loyalty and longing, but then melted into it. The world shrank to the press of lips, the rush of breath, the ache of finally touching what he had been forbidden to want. When they pulled apart, both were shaking. Ji-won's voice was a whisper. "This will ruin everything." Min-seok's hand tightened on his shoulder. "Or it could be the only real thing we've ever had." The choice hung in the air, fragile and irrevocable. On-screen text: BL first kiss, manhwa love story, yaoi romance. In the days that followed, Ji-won and Min-seok lived between fear and wonder. Every glance was heavier, every word a secret. Min-ho remained oblivious, trusting, laughing, his presence a reminder of what was at stake. But love, once awakened, cannot be buried again. Ji-won found courage in Min-seok's steadiness, and Min-seok found warmth in Ji-won's devotion. What began as a mistake grew into something undeniable. The story ends not with answers but with a question. Is love worth the risk of betrayal? For Ji-won and Min-seok, the answer was yes. Because even in secrecy, even in fear, they had found something true. On-screen text: BL romance, yaoi manhwa, forbidden love story. What did you feel watching this story unfold, softly? Was it heartbreaking, sweet, or bittersweet? Comment your reaction below. I read everyone. Don't forget to subscribe for more BL webtoon breakdowns and yaoi manhwa love stories. Check the description for full story links and more LGBTQ romance recommendations. When you reach this point in the story, what did you feel stirring inside you? Softly. Was it heartbreak? The kind that lingers like a bruise, reminding you that love often comes wrapped in struggle? Or was it sweetness? That quiet, trembling joy when two souls finally reach across the silence and discover they were never truly alone. Maybe, just maybe, it was bittersweet, because every tender moment carries the shadow of what the world might say, what families might forbid, what time might steal away. Love in BL webtoons, yaoi manhwa, or any romance story isn't just about the kiss, the confession, the spark. It's about the aching pauses in between. The way one character whispers, "You're not ruining anything. You're saving me from being alone." The way another hesitates, afraid to believe they could finally belong somewhere, with someone. These are the fragments that stay with us long after the screen fades to black. Think back on Ji-won and Min-ho, or Ji-hoon and Min-seo. Whichever names, whichever titles, whichever BL manhwa threads you followed with me tonight. Their stories may shift, but the heartbeat is always the same. Two people reaching for each other in a world that tells them not to. Isn't that what makes these narratives so addictive, so unforgettable? Pause, softer tone. Because BL isn't only about romance, it's about reflection. It's about us. When you see Ji-won carefully lining up his pencils, don't you think of the moments in your own life when you longed for control? When you tried to keep everything neat, tidy, safe, until someone like Min-ho stormed in with laughter and chaos, teaching you that mess can also mean freedom. When you hear Min-seo mutter, "You don't need to ruin your life for me," don't you remember the times you doubted your worth? When you thought someone loving you could only be a burden? And then, like Ji-hoon, someone looked you in the eyes. Maybe a friend, a lover, maybe even just a stranger online, and said, "You're not ruining anything. You're saving me." That's why these BL stories matter. They aren't just fiction, aren't just panels of ink or lines of dialogue read aloud. They're mirrors. They let us see ourselves in the vulnerability, in the courage, in the messy contradictions of love. They whisper to us that it's okay to want, it's okay to fall, it's okay to be saved. And now, I want to hear from you. Gentle tone. When you watch this story unfold, when you listened to the words and pictured the moments, what did you feel? Was your heart racing when the kiss finally happened? Did you ache during the silence, when unspoken words weighed heavier than shouts? Did you smile, even through tears, knowing that at least for a moment, they weren't alone anymore? Type it out in the comments. One word, one sentence, or a whole paragraph if you'd like. Heartbroken, sweet, emotional, cute, bittersweet. Whatever it was, share it. Because your reaction isn't just yours. Someone across the world, in another time zone, might be feeling the same. That's the beauty of this BL community. These stories connect us across languages, across cultures, across screens. And if this manhwa-style love story touched you, don't let this be the end. There are countless more waiting. BL webtoons with forbidden love, yaoi romance manga with rivals turned lovers, LGBTQ stories where two people discover family isn't always blood, but the ones who choose you when no one else will. I break down these stories here every week, so if you want more drama, more sweetness, more heartbreak that turns into healing, hit that subscribe button. Warmly, It means you'll never miss the next love story that might just echo your own. Check the description below for full story links and more BL recommendations, manhwa you can dive into tonight, manga panels that will make your chest ache, webtoons that might just change the way you think about love. And remember, stories end, but feelings linger. Let this one stay with you tonight. Carry it with you tomorrow. Share it with someone who might need to hear that love, in all its forms, is worth it. Soft whisper. Until next time, keep your heart open, because somewhere, in another BL webtoon, another yaoi manhwa, another LGBTQ love story, two more souls are about to collide. And maybe, just maybe, they'll remind you of yourself.